Reddit ask me anything. I am a taxidermist. Ask me anything. Taxidermy is the thing where people bring you dead stuff and you try to make it look alive again. I got into this through family connections. I, myself, am not a hunter. Nice and easy. Creepiest thing you've worked on? Easily baboons. You'd think it would be the face or hands that grew to freak me out, but it was the feet. While the hands had fingernails, the shape of the hands didn't bother me too much. The feet, however, were human hand shaped like to the point where it was very uncanny. Not to mention that almost anything keratin based, such as horns and fingernails, will want to peel away from the skin. Can you make it look like animals are posed like Street Fighter characters? Asking for a friend. There is absolutely no reason why we couldn't. Such unnatural poses will cost extra, but you would certainly be giving a fun project. What's an example of an unnatural pose somebody asked and paid for you to make? Most people don't request unnatural poses. The most unnatural I've done is a couple of baboons holding guns. What's the weirdest thing, animal or otherwise, that someone's asked you to taxidermy? Ever had any haunted taxidermy heads or bodies or anything? I think the weird stuff is the illegal animals that have mysteriously died. People will call and say that they found a dead owl or eagle or something. Birds of prey are highly illegal to possess and require a ton of permits. Nothing haunted, but there's supposedly a door slamming ghost at the shop. One of the people I work with collects bones and discarded skulls. Kinda weird, but I have a friend who wants a whale penis. Is this something a taxidermist would be willing to stuff and mount? Marine mammals decay too quickly for that, unless you carve it out of a beached whale. A penis in animals are slightly different from human and dog boners, since they are typically not exposed. People do usually want us to make sure their male animals have hearty scrotums, though. Whales, I do believe, have penis bones, though. You can certainly take one of those and have a taxidermist boil it in a high concentration of hydrogen peroxide to preserve it. We once had some hippo penises at the shop. They were a good 3-4 feet long. Looks at my own pathetic penis in shame. Who was your most unsettling customer, or just person making bizarre inquiries? If you mean unsettling as in creepy, we rarely get those types. Most of our customers are deer hunting country guys or rich guys who travel the world to kill things. What surprises me are the customers who are very impatient for their animals to be mounted but don't have the money to actually pick up the completed mount. In your opinion, what is the hardest part of taxidermy? It really depends. During deer season, it can sometimes just be the smell of rotting heads, meat, and blood. Other times it can just be the painful act of tying up loose ends. If it were legal and you got paid handsomely for it, would you stuff a person? As long as I wasn't the one chosen to do the face, I don't mind making a life-size doll, but I promise that will hit the uncanny valley very quickly. You'll have better luck donating your body to that German or French plastic anatomy museum. What % of the animals you taxidermize got shot? Most likely 99.5%. Shot by an arrow. Shot by a gun. Very rarely is something brought in that wasn't intentionally killed. That's not what I expected. Thanks. May I ask what you expected? Many pets that were put down. Many taxidermists won't do pets. I can't see why. Too much trouble with the client? Well, you have stared at your beloved pet all its life. The taxidermist won't be able to capture the twinkle in its eyes when it looks at you longingly. Instead, you may get something that is the average of that breed. So if you hand over a purebred, we'll make it look like something that wins AKC championships, but it still will look off to the owner. How did you get started? Did you find it difficult to obtain supplies, training, etc.? As boring as it may sound, my family called one day and asked if I wanted to help them out. I needed a job at the time, so I said yes. Training isn't difficult so much as intimidating. The animals themselves are costly, so now I worry about ruining the animal. As far as supplies are concerned, if in doubt, you can order everything online pretty easily. A lot of supplies we use that aren't taxidermy specific, such as chemicals, decorations, etc. we can get from local stores. Even borax found in your laundry section can be used as a preservative for animal skins. We do enjoy browsing taxidermy catalogs for unique forms and eyes. Though for eyes, I've been checking out a doll maker's site. They can make some crazy eyes that don't focus on realism, which is perfect for if you feel creative, like for contests and whatnot. Taxidermy contests? Can you elaborate on that a bit? What's the cutest thing you did? A ring-tailed cat. I'm still not sure of what exactly it's supposed to be, but it's extremely adorable. We're about to mount a fawn. That's maybe a close second. That or a bufflehead duck. Or a Shih Tzu. Leopards are cute. Did you know that leopards have cheetah puffs for testicles? What is actually real on a stuffed animal? Just the skin, the teeth, or everything but the eyes? Might be a stretch, but do you think your career has desensitized you to death? Certainly. I'll preface this by saying that I was always a little off as a child. When I was 4, this is not a joke, I told myself when I turned 5, I'm going to kill myself. 5 years of age came. The destined date was now set at 8 years old. 10, 12, 16, 19. I gave up. I'm getting close to 30 now. Still alive. Seeing disembodied death certainly solidified my indifference to death itself, because it's so different from being alive. I know that sounds stupid, but hear me out. Once an animal dies, most of the tension in the animal is now loose. Once you enable ragdoll physics, it's so torn from how the animal moved in real life that it ceases to be a being altogether. It's now an object. For example, we now have a fawn, a baby deer, that was skinned just yesterday. The one who skinned it had actually fed several fawns just a couple of days before. They were precious. They were adorable. Now we have a dead one. It's still adorable, but not in the same way. It has now been put in a different category from the living. I will say that I cannot handle torture and trauma. I cannot handle suffering. While death doesn't bother me, the process of death can. Seeing an animal flip-flop and spaz about hurts me. I really surprised myself once. I held a runt kitten in my hand, desperate to keep it fed and warm. It didn't make it. This weak kitten started to twitch and convulse violently, but suddenly, it stopped. There was no resistance in its head or limbs. While I knew what was in my hand was an object, I had the fresh memory of watching it writhe in pain. I wrapped it and buried in the yard. Yet I know that if someone were to hand me a kitten that was already dead, I'd feel nothing. As a matter of fact, now, I'd be wanting to keep it. Edit. If you're really interested in death, I'd highly recommend the YouTube channel Ask a Mortician, hosted by Caitlin Doughty. She's very lighthearted for someone who handles dead humans all the time. What inspired you to pursue this particular skill set? Needing a job. I learned firsthand that once you're in, you don't get out. SOS. Maybe a couple for you to choose from. So what's a taxidermist collecting annually, or even per job? Anyone bring in old pets, like dogs or cats or other? If someone was interested in this line of work, what would you say? Not interested myself, but curious if it's something you'd recommend or tell others to pass. Thanks. Money can be determined by outweighing the cost per animal versus supplies. You'd think you'd make a bundle charging $6 grand for something like a mountain lion, but it's less than you'd expect in profit. We do occasionally get people asking for pets, but that's a bit of a grey area sometimes. People have lived with their pets their whole lives. They know everything about Fido. We just know the breed, so we'll do our best to make it look like that breed. Yet it isn't good enough. They are one of those things that we steer clear of as best we can, because the animal may never be perfect to the customer. For anyone interested in this line of work, I'd have to ask why. You want it as a hobby? Something to do? Take it up seriously? This job can easily be one of those things where you take your work and home with you. I'd say that unless you're willing to marry this job, just keep it as a small hobby. Hi, I bought some white pigeon wings from a horror convention. They told me to, in order to keep them clean and not get no bugs, to put them in the freezer occasionally for a week. Is there anything else I should do to preserve them? Can I keep them in the freezer constantly? I'd like to make them into a crown at some point. I like jewelry that includes bones and small skulls and would like to craft some jewelry like this myself. Do you have any recommendations on where to get bird, cat, small mammal skulls? Thank you in advance. I've never heard of occasionally putting a mount in the freezer to ward off bugs, but I don't see why that wouldn't kill anything in them. Freezing itself won't ward off anything, though. Just kill what's in on it. Yes, you can keep them in the freezer constantly. If you wanted to change the wind shape, be aware of freezer burn. As far as other preventions go, you can purchase powdered bug repellent. It usually has a citronella-like scent. I'm sure there's a myriad of alternatives to make sure bugs don't get it. Usually when people bring in damaged items, it's because rodents or pets got to the mount. Small bones and skulls. The best, most likely legal way I can think of is picking up roadkill. Take it home, bury it for a few weeks or throw it on an ant pile for a few days. Hi, my experience in taxidermy has been limited to rats and rabbits. I've just been gifted a lamb which died a few days after birth. Can I make a soft body form like I do for my rodents, or do I need to find another form to fit? I don't see why you can't stuff it with plush goodness. It'll be crinkly, and you'll risk breaking the skin if you mess with it after mounting. The main issue with making soft forms is maintaining shape. There's more room for error and part of the animal may look bloated. Of course, I've seen some soft forms made from an almost rubber-like material that are still squishy, yet shapely. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking mad lad. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.